Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani here at the Rooney Complex on the south side as the Steelers get ready for Week 5 of the NFL season. Daunting assignment going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. We welcome all our viewers on Pittsburgh CW as well as Steeler digital platforms getting set for this game. The Steelers coming off a disappointing fourth quarter and a loss at home to the Jets, so they're 0-2 at home, 1-3 overall, but we saw something rare in that game. Mike Tomlin very rarely pulls a quarterback in a game, and he did so in this game at halftime, trailing 10-6. That brought Kenny Pickett into the game, and boy, he delivered a lot of energy, no doubt. 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the first time in the history of the NFL that a quarterback had rushed for a touchdown in his debut, and he did it twice, so that puts him in unique territory. There were 3 interceptions, 1 a Hail Mary, and then some debatable catches or throws, especially the one to Pat Freiermuth. The bottom line is the defense also allowed a couple of long touchdown drives late in that game. There were some injuries in the secondary that may have compromised their blitzing schemes. Whatever the case, Zach Wilson and company took it to the house twice. So we'll talk about that game. We'll talk about the Bills, who are 14-point favorites in this game. Mike Tomlin is ready to speak. Let's go upstairs.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick synopsis of the last performance. And really, the perspective that I had post-game kind of remains to be the perspective that I have, as I sit here today. There's disappointment and frustration that comes with the outcome, but it's not anything about the outcome that's mystical from my perspective or our perspective. And so, although it's frustrating, I think that we're all motivated to address it and to continue to work to do some of the things that we need to do to change the outcome of these games. It's a splattering of things, but oftentimes it is in the National Football League. There's a fine line between winning and losing. If I go back and look at some of the things that transpired in that game, I thought the penalties were a component of play. We were penalized in the special teams game. That didn't help our cause from a field positioning standpoint. I thought some of our drives, particularly in the first half, were slowed down by penalties, things that are within our control. We got to get better in those phases. From a defensive perspective, I thought our inability to get off on possession downs in the fourth quarter was significant. And we've looked at that, and, we sustained some in-game injuries and so forth in the secondary that made some of those possession down things challenging in terms of the things that were at our disposal. Obviously, we went into the game down a couple of guys, and then some things happened in the game. And when we looked at the tape, we just weren't tight enough in those circumstances. And so there's some lessons to be learned from that. Oftentimes, lessons are painful ones. Your ability to close out games from a defensive perspective often define you, your unit, and your team in the NFL. And so we acknowledge that. It's interesting. It's the second game we've kind of been in within 4 that we had a myriad of defensive injuries that have kind of cost us timeouts within the last 2 minutes of the game. So it's been an attrition component of it that you have to acknowledge, although you don't seek comfort in it. We got to continue to coach all parties involved. You guys know the philosophy that we live by. Either you're a starter or a starting and waiting. The standard of expectation doesn't change. And so we got some work to do in terms of being able to live up to the standards as we deal with some of the things that come with playing football. And attrition and injury and the loss of people and personnel is just a component of it. It's not only for us, but it's also for those we play against. And so we got to be better in those areas as we look at it. In regards to the quarterback position, we made a change in game, and Kenny will start this week. And I just want to talk about that for a moment. We made the change. Obviously, Mitch's performance was a component of the decision, but not the only component of the decision. And I just want to be really clear there. Oftentimes, the quarterback position gets too much credit, too much blame. We haven't moved the ball fluidly enough to our liking. We hadn't put enough points on the board. The quarterback is a component of that, but not the only component. We've all got to absorb the responsibility that comes with what we haven't done, particularly in that phase, including myself and starting with myself. And so when you make a quarterback change, you're really sensitive to that component of it, because I don't want to dump the responsibility of what transpired at Mitch's feet. That's not fair to him. He's played better than that description, but we haven't. And so in an effort to be better in an effort to score more points, in an effort to move the ball more fluidly, we decided to go to Kenny in the hopes that he would provide a spark for us. We felt that not only in terms of our ability to move the ball, but just in terms of energy. And so hopefully that's a catalyst for us as we try to move forward and change the outcome of some of these games, man. Our business is winning, and we're about our business, and we've lost 3 games in a row, and we got a formidable opponent this week. And so a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of things to have urgency regarding, and that's just a component of it. And so I thought that was deserving of extended time and discussion there. We have no reservations about what Kenny is going to be capable of in terms of our schematics. Obviously, we have a level of concern about the environment we're taking him into, but, you have a level of concern about any quarterback that you take into that environment versus that defense and that venue. And so that's a component of it, but not a significant component of it outside the usual in terms of respecting it. Kenny has shown us maturity at every point throughout this process. He's older than most rookies, and that was obviously leading up to the draft process. The things that we valued in him from a draft perspective, fluid and quick decision-making, pro-like anticipation and things of that nature have proven to be true. That's why we took him when we were given the opportunity to do so. Since we've acquired him, he's done nothing but fortify that thought process and make some plays during team development and during the preseason. And he's continually gotten better even after the regular season has started. Those of us that are here day to day from a practice standpoint know and understand that and see the progress and equally as important, see his mature and professional approach to readiness. And so we're excited for him and about him, but we got work, all of us. It's a collective. We all are responsible. And so we prepare with an edge knowing that. And from an injury standpoint, got a few things to talk about. Witherspoon, you should anticipate him still being out. We got some other guys monitoring some health-related things. Edmonds is in the concussion protocol. Mika has a knee that needs to be managed and to watch him progress throughout the week. Cam Sutton has a groin, a hamstring, and Cam Hayward has an elbow and an ankle. So we got some things to manage. But I don't necessarily view that as a negative, to be quite honest with you. It might minimize these guys some during the week, but what it will do is provide more reps for those that are playing in place of them. And oftentimes when things happen in game, those guys that are playing in place of people aren't afforded the opportunity to ready themselves. And so I'm going to view it as a positive. I'm going to focus our energies on the guys that are working. We're going to remain hopeful about the inclusion of these guys, and we're going to let their participation and the quality of their participation as we get toward the latter part of the week be our guide in terms of determining whether or not they'll be available to us. In the meanwhile, man, we're really going to focus on some of these guys that get an opportunity to elevate and participate and make sure that they're on the screws. We got the type of detail and communication we need from them to put together a good collective in an effort to go up there and do the job, man. We've been in this environment before. We've been in stadiums versus this group a lot here in recent years. We know them. They know us. The venue is a component of the matchup. We opened up there last year in week 1. On the offensive side of the ball, you better deal with Josh Allen and his unique skill set. He's an elite passer. He's an elite runner or creator. It's challenging. It's simple mathematics, They got some receivers like Diggs that require attention that could mean 2 people, whether it's zone or man schematically. Anytime you're facing a quarterback like Josh, oftentimes it means 5 rushers. And so do the math, man. When you got that type of talent on the perimeter, when you got that type of talent in the pocket at quarterback, it makes defense challenging. You wish you could utilize 12 or 13 guys. We don't, so we got to be thoughtful about how we deploy our 11. We got to change some things up. We got to keep them off balance. We got to know what it is that we're doing. If we're out of place, there's going to be consequences for it. That's just the reality of it. And so we got some challenges on that side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, talking about Buffalo's defense, man, they got quality players in their front. The acquisition of Von Miller is obviously significant, but they've had some high-quality guys. They've drafted guys high in the draft there for a long time up front and built their unit that way on the second level. You can't say enough about Milano and Edmonds, man. They're all situations players. They make plays for them at all levels. They blitz, they cover, they run game tackle, sideline to sideline. They got a veteran secondary from a safety tandem and nickel perspective. There's some changeover at corner, but they're doing things very similar to how they've done it in the past. Johnson is significant at the nickelback position. They play nickel versus almost all personnel groups, and that speaks to the versatility and the confidence that they have in Johnson. The Ravens were playing in some big personnel groups last week in the ways that the Ravens do, and, boy, they sat in nickel. You saw Johnson playing in the box and doing so well. He could cover wide receivers. He can cover tight ends. He can fit in the run game. That versatility, along with the versatility at the safety position. DeMar has played really good for him back there at the safety spot. They've got continuity. They know what it is they're doing. They communicate well. They minimize big plays. For example, through 4 games thus far, they've given up, I think, 6 runs of 10 yards or more and 10 passes of 20 yards or more. That's got to be kind of tops in the league. They minimize chunks. They make you earn it. You better stay on schedule. You better not be highly penalized. Those are some of the things that we're talking about as we formulate our plan here at the early stages. But again, none of it will be kind of a surprise. They do what it is they do. I'm sure they'll say similar things about us because we've just been in the stadium against each other so often here in recent years. It's like a division game, if you will. I know we're going to have that level of urgency. I know we're going to have that level of respect for the environment that the Bills Mafia is capable of creating. And so I'll pause there, man, and open it up for questions.
Mike, last week here you had said that, you wanted the guys to tune out the noise, remain committed to the plan. Was there any one particular play or plays or incident that you changed the plan?
No, I don't know if it's any one particular thing. It's just how I felt and how we felt in game. I think we also talked last week or about, when you're there, how do you know when you're there? And I said, you just kind of know when you're there. And I think that's probably the perspective that I have on the decision-making component of it.
When we talked to you after the Cleveland game, you said definitively, no, we're not changing anything. And you said you felt it in the game, but was there any point in the 10 days, or how did your thinking change in that?
It was just what I outlined over here. We weren't moving it fluidly enough. We need to move it more fluidly. We need to score points. That's just the feeling I had in stadium last week.
Mike, what did the tape show you? How would you evaluate that after play from Kenny?
From Kenny? Like I mentioned, I thought he provided a spark for us. I thought we moved it more fluidly. I thought we put some points on the board, obviously. It wasn't a perfect half of play. We turned the ball over some. You can't do that. And he's a young guy. He's going to grow throughout this process, but make no mistake about it. We're not grading him on a curve. He's not grading himself on a curve. There's an expectation of quality play and playing to win.
From that emotional standpoint, you've used the word spark a number of times, as have the players, in relation to Kenny going in. I think a lot of people hear that and think singular within the moment of the one game, but how sustainable is that energy boost potentially for the next month?
I think he provided a spark in game that is tangible, that we saw and could feel and appreciate. But I think it goes beyond that. I think that he's kind of provided that spark since we've been stepping in stadiums. It's just a component of who he is as a player and a quarterback, the things that he does, how he communicates, his competitive spirit. I think it's a positive catalyst for us.
Do you see him naturally being more aggressive than Mitch, just in the plays, that the risks he's willing to take and the way in which he plays?
I think the tape and his play will tell that story over the course of time, obviously. Playing and speculating about playing are two different things.
Mike, who will be his backup this week?
Mitch.
How did Mitch handle the news about the change this week?
Man, the way that you would expect, man, there's disappointment. He's a competitor. He's a professional. He's a hard and diligent worker. He wants to be a positive contributor to our efforts and the reason why we're successful, and, to change that to afford him an opportunity to do those things. And so, it's something to absorb. We respect it. just in the same ways that we respect some of the things that Mason Rudolph has gone through this process, where he used to be a backup and he's been a number 3 to this point. And so whenever you're working as a collective, oftentimes there's setbacks for individuals within the collective as you pursue what it is that we all need. And being a part of a team, I think we all understand that, but at the same time, we don't want to discount it or be desensitive to it because we're in it. We're sensitive to the situation that Mitch is in. While at the same time, we got a game to get ready for, and we got to ready Kenny. And so I'm sure that Mitch is going to be professional. Mitch has been a part of that program in Buffalo. I'm sure he's going to be a positive contributor to our readiness and provide awesome insight throughout the preparation process and be a big help to Kenny. I just appreciate the professionalism that all our quarterbacks have displayed throughout this process, all of them. Mason, Kenny, Mitch, they've been a pleasure to work with.
Mike, because of that, where you're playing and the fact that Mitch was there last year, did you give any thought of coming
Yes.
back to Mitch?
I did.
Are there aspects to the offensive scheme that are unique to Kenny that are not to Trubisky?
I think that'll be told over the course of this upcoming weeks with how we play from a personality standpoint and the things or the concepts that we choose to highlight in stadium. Oftentimes you can go into a game with a list of 120 to 160 plays, and what you pull off that ready list oftentimes dictates what is perceived as your personality. And so the plays that we pick off for Mitch might be slightly different in some ways than Kenny, and so that will be revealed over the course of the upcoming weeks, the differences that you ask about.
Mike, the quarterback position is unique in football, where you're not only just the guy throwing the football, you're kind of a de facto leader. What have you learned about Kenny in the pre-draft process from the time that you've had him, about the type of leader he's going to be for this football team?
I've watched him grow in those ways, in a neighborly sort of way during his time at Pitt. It's something that you could see that he consciously pursued and was thoughtful about, while at the same time it's a natural act. And I think that that's something that all quality leaders, particularly at the quarterback position, have. They better be intentional because there's a myriad of responsibilities that come with being them. But it aids them when it's a natural act and they have an inclusive personality. They're good communicators and listeners and so forth, and he's displayed all of that.
Mike, is keeping Mitch as the backup a way to show him that, hey, it wasn't all on you, and to keep him involved and engaged, as opposed to giving Mason the half this week?
No, he's deserving of that, and I don't know that it's any messaging associated with it other than the fact that, he's the next best option for us this week as we ready ourselves to play.
Does Mitch still go out? I know this is nitpicky, but as a captain, would he still go out for coin toss?
Yes.
And things of that nature?
Yes.
Like, do you have to be? I know there's dynamics associated with the quarterback being taken number 1. To use the word again, do you have to be definitive, steadfast, resolute for a long chunk of time moving forward here with Kenny because of that, or is this a week-to-week thing with quarterbacks here?
When we make decisions, man, we don't anticipate blowing in the wind. That's not how we are. While at the same time we understand that what transpires after that decision-making often determines how we move forward. We're optimistic and thoughtful in our thought process. We believe in Kenny. We're getting him ready to play this week, and we're singularly focused on preparing for and ultimately playing a good game and winning up there in Buffalo, and really don't have a lot of thoughts beyond that.
Mike, is there one particular area where your defense has let you down in the last 3 games by not getting off the field and giving up leads?
Possession down, football. I really felt it, but I felt it throughout. But particularly in the fourth quarter of that game, we were challenged there with some of the things schematically we were able to do and the collection of guys that we had on the grass. It didn't feel comfortable. We got to get better at painting our barn red if we got red paint based on the people that we have available to us in those moments.
Things that, Mike, you were challenged from a personnel perspective as well in terms of some of those letdowns, correct?
Yeah, but again, we don't seek comfort in that. Like I say, attrition is a component of the ball. And so you look at the collection of men that you have available to you, and you formulate a plan, and you divide the labor up in an effort to secure victory. And that's our business. And so we don't waste a lot of time lamenting about who's unavailable. I know every time I come into this setting, you guys ask me about TJ's lack of availability and its impact. We can waste all day sitting around talking about the impact of him not being available, just like I'm sure the Rams could sit around and talk about what if, Aaron Donald wasn't available. We better spend our time talking about the guys that are available to us, how we divide that labor up in the best effort to minimize those opponents that we're preparing for this week. We got some big challenges, man. We got guys that merit two-man attention like Diggs. We got a quarterback with big-time mobility that oftentimes includes rushing more than 4. And so there's some mathematical challenges I like to describe when you face a group with so many talented components like this Buffalo Bills group.
Mike, when you're dealing with Allen and his ability to make plays off platform, specifically there was a play against Baltimore where it was a 4th down and it looked like Oweh and Humphrey both kind of had him dead to rights, and he's able to beat them both. Are there coaching techniques or principles that you can give guys to try to deal with those situations?
Yeah, build a fence. Those are his talents. It's just like trying to tackle Lamar Jackson. I was watching them on the other side of the ball deal with Lamar. And when you're dealing with guys at the quarterback position that have arm and leg talent, it's challenging. And so, you can coach all you want about near leg and building the fence and all of those things, but when they get you in one-on-one circumstances, they're going to win a lot of those. They've been winning a lot of those at every level that they've ever played at since Little League, I would imagine.
Mike, what has DeMarvin Leal been able to do for you when you put him out there on the edge like you have?
He's a big guy that's played in that space. He played in that space at A&M. He's active. He's growing every week. He's getting better. He's got some talent. We're excited about the overall trajectory of Leal.
Mike, with the injuries in the secondary, can you discuss how James Pierre has progressed since he lost the job last season? Is he ready to assume a bigger role if there's injuries?
We'll see. That's what I mean when I talk about the lack of availability this week from a practice standpoint. When you miss guys in practice, it really gives other guys an opportunity to show their readiness, make some plays, show some detail and communication that's associated with varsity ball. And he's done a nice job. He'll be given an opportunity to display those things this week, along with a guy like Josh Jackson and others. And so we'll put together a formula and see who best represents themselves and does the things that we need them to do during the course of the week. And we'll divide the labor up at the end.
Mike, I know that TJ's still on IR and he has a couple weeks left on there, but just what is his progress like at this
He's
point?
on IR. He has a couple weeks still left on there.
At safety, if you have without Edmonds and Fitzpatrick, how does that alignment go? Where does Norwood fit in? Does he slot in better at one of those spots?
He's obviously one of them. We're going to work all the safeties. If those two guys aren't practicing, all the other ones are working. And so it's not about picking and choosing. All of the remaining safeties will get legitimate work this week, and they'll have an opportunity to show detail and playmaking and so forth, and we'll divide the labor up at the end of the week.
Mike, what goes into Kenny Pickett as a rookie coming in his first appearance, being able to make adjustments at the line and calls at the line, whereas it was said that Mitch wasn't given as much liberty to do that earlier in the season?
I don't know that I agree with that component of the statement. So what's the question?
What goes into him as a rookie being able to make such calls in a game, in his first experience, the practice and the work that he has to do off the field to be ready for that moment?
He's football sharp. He works at it. He's mature behind his years. Those are the reasons why we have a level of comfort with some of the things that he's able to do relative to what you would expect from a rookie perspective.
Mike, are any of the guys who were placed on IR preseason now eligible to come off, like Austin, like KZ? Would they come off this week?
Austin is eligible to come up this week, and by come up, I mean you get an opportunity to start the 21-day window to practice and make judgments from there.
How is Calvin Austin progressing, I think, now that he's eligible to come off IR?
Again, I think that's what I just gave Stan is the information that I have. He's eligible to come off this week. That starts his 21-day window. The quality of his work and what he's able to do within that window oftentimes determines what you do from there.
Mike, when Kenny was debating whether to come out after 20, he decided that he heard his draft stock wasn't that high, so he went back and obviously it paid off for him. What did you see from that year, from 20 to 21, that
I don't know that I evaluated it in that way, to be honest with you. I look at who declares for the draft, who's draft eligible, and then I start my process. I get on a moving train from a coach's perspective. Maybe the scouts have a different perspective because they scout in the fall. My process starts in the winter and spring after the season ends, and most of the time decisions are made about whether to enter the draft or not enter the draft. And so I don't waste a lot of time covering or studying guys that have decided to go back to school.
Well, I would imagine you would have casually seen components of his play, since he's next door in on Saturdays. Right?
Casually, but not so much so that I can draw a professional analysis in the ways that you asked.
Where's your comfort level with Gunner and punt return now that he's put 2 balls on the
Not very high, to be quite honest with you, man. You can't put 2 balls on the ground in 4 games and feel good about it. 2 is a pattern in the National Football League. We say that often. We say that about runners in ball security. Whether it's 4 games or 8 games or 12 games, 2 in our business is a pattern. And so we got some work there this week and some decisions to make, and he's got to get us to a level of comfort, and we look at some other options as well.
Like last week, Najee Harris had some interesting comments where he said, he made a point really to say, I don't want you to focus on the offensive line. It's me that deserves the criticism. How do you evaluate the run game and Najee's performance within it?
Improving every single week. But we're not graded on improvement. We're graded on results. And so they need to continue to improve in the ways that they have in an effort to change the outcome of these games.
What do you think it is about Von Miller that's allowed him to be so consistent for so long through age and injury?
He's Von Miller. Some guys are aliens visiting from another planet, and that's just the reality of it. Man, in the National Football League, man, you got to respect all these guys, right? They're all freaky. But some guys are even freaky in our setting. And he's just one of those guys. He always has been since he came out of A&M, moving and changing and running like a corner. He needs no endorsement from me. His resume is his resume. Kudos to Von Miller, tip of the cap to Von Miller. And I'll say this. We talk about his talents often, but this guy's a scientist. He works at his craft. He encourages, trains others to do so that are like him. That edge rush summit and things that he's a critical component of, I got a lot of respect for. I spent a week with him in Orlando when we coached the Pro Bowl, and just to see the professional and scientific approach that he takes to his craft, even in a setting like that. That guy was the reason we won that Pro Bowl game. I know we don't spend a lot of time talking about the outcomes of Pro Bowl games, but man, Von Miller took over that Pro Bowl game and gave us all quality checks, man, and we appreciate his efforts.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
You can say respect there. That's the ultimate respect that you heard from Mike Tomlin on Von Miller. And that's going to be one of the guys they got to deal with. Boy, they have a loaded defense in Buffalo as we welcome in Missy Matthews. And Missy, I think we expected Kenny Pickett to be the quarterback here, and you can tell how effusive praise Mike Tomlin has for this guy and the fact that he is football sharp, quoting him, and well beyond his years in terms of maturity. That's pretty high praise. The question is, as a raw rookie going into that environment in Buffalo with the Bills Mafia and everything, how much can you expect from a guy like that?
Well, I think any quarterback going into that environment, we all have been there and know exactly what it's like, how low the fans sit and just how close they are to the visiting team benches. But obviously the Steelers were able to come out with a win last season. It was week 1. They had Ben Roethlisberger, but I think Kenny just has that swag, as we've heard so many times from his teammates after he came in on Sunday against the Jets, and just the composure, calm, and maybe it's an environment he'll thrive in because they are underdogs, and it's going to be one of those things where people aren't going to expect the Steelers to be able to perform well there.
The one play that stands out to me is when he got hit. He knew he was going to get plastered, stood in there, made a throw to Pat Freiermuth, got up and smiled at the guy who hit him. And probably talked a little trash too, which is something interesting. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll break down what Mike Tomlin had to say, the good, the bad of this. The defense has a lot of issues as they gave up 2 long drives in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that and more as we continue. This is the Mike Tomlin press conference on a Tuesday in Pittsburgh. We're back right after this.
fourth quarter drives, it's becoming, I guess, a bit of a trend, or two of them there against you guys. How do you fix that?
Just getting off the field, just finding ways, continue to find ways to try to get off the field.
How frustrating have all these ups and downs been? Because you guys played so well for a good portion of the game.
Definitely frustrating. Obviously, you want to come out on the other end of these games and keep moving in the right direction, whether it's, you know, I mean, all the games are meaningful, you know, most importantly, week in, week out, especially in the broad spectrum of the division. You know, just games, certain situations, scenarios, like I said, we just got to find ways to come out on the other end of. And, you know, all we can do is, you know, tip our hats off to that team and, you know, competing. Obviously, we competed at a high level today, but just didn't get it done. So just keep finding ways to keep coming together. You know, this is not an individual, obviously, deal. This is not just a one guy type of thing or just one play defines a game. So just finding 60 minutes, you know, nothing less than 60. So, you know, that's obviously a start.
1-3 start. Is there confidence in this locker room you guys can bounce back from that?
For sure. You know, we got 13 games left, man. It's a lot of ball left, you know, and that's not to say that, obviously, you never look over a game, you never look over the outcome of a game, but we got so much ball ahead of us. You know, just obviously come together at the right times. Obviously, the sooner the better, you know. But again, just finding ways, you know, being consistent, obviously how we approach the game, and just a detail in our work, making the plays that we got to make. And then obviously creating turnovers and creating the plays just to keep momentum of games. And just keep, like I said, keep us moving in the right direction.
Obviously, you're on the other side of the ball, but what does it do for you guys when Kenny Pickett comes in the second half and hear the crowd behind you? It seemed like there was a noticeable spark.
Yeah, you know, obviously it's amazing, you know. Opportunity for him, you know, guy who's been consistently getting better each and every day. Controlling that room, controlling that offense. You know, obviously he's been waiting on this opportunity, and you know, just coming in and just playing his style of ball.
This place is juiced up.
In regards to the quarterback position, we made a change in game, and Kenny will start this week, and I just want to talk about that for a moment. We made the change. Obviously, Mitch's performance was a component of the decision, but not the only component of the decision, and I just want to be really clear there. Oftentimes, the quarterback position gets too much credit, too much blame. We haven't moved the ball fluidly enough to our liking. We hadn't put enough points on the board. The quarterback is a component of that, but not the only component.
So it's a unit that he's worried about, getting more points, getting more fluid, and Kenny Pickett is going to be the choice, at least for this week, and he would imagine going forward. He's the number one pick, 20th overall, so Missy, this is going to happen at some point. I think many people thought it might happen at the bye week, but he saw the need for it at halftime of this game, and he certainly made a difference. And it was the defense who let the game get away. But let's talk about Kenny Pickett and what he's capable of doing, even in this environment. He seems, as you said, he has that swag factor, that it factor. Confidence oozes from this guy.
Well, and Coach Tomlin said going back to the decision, it was a feel thing, a gut thing, and he wouldn't know he was there until it happened. So clearly that happened at the end of the first half. The decision was made at halftime. Kenny Pickett came out early with quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan, started warming up, and I think that's when the rest of the world figured out what the game plan was there. But a spark is what Coach Tomlin wanted. A spark is what they got. I think just rushing in that first touchdown, you could just feel his teammates. Look at Freiermuth with all the guys. It just started to kind of rally them, wake them up a little bit, because the first half it was so frustrating watching them not be able to find the end zone when they did have opportunities and the penalties just shooting themselves in the foot, basically. So I think Kenny did provide that, and I like when Coach Tomlin was asked about, how do you continue the momentum of that spark? I think it's just Kenny, the swag, the competitor in him, and just how he is present in the pocket and to his teammates and how he wants to rally them. So I'm very interested to see, with a full week of preparation, all of the first team reps to get ready, knowing he is the starter, what will happen in Buffalo.
Yeah, he said the other day at his press conference, I play with an edge. I hope it's contagious, essentially. And I think it will be if you look at the reaction of these guys. Again, just watching body language, he has this ability to roll left, to roll right. He knows when to run the ball, alert to where the first down sticks are right there. Just a confident guy. And again, that throw that he made to Freiermuth is the one that stands out to me. Just a guy willing to lay it out there to make a play. And I think that's been lacking in this offense so far.
As Coach said, some of the rookie mistakes, although they're not grading him on a curve, he feels like he's not a normal rookie. But the interception that he was trying to go to Freiermuth, the pitch to Jalen Warren, just some things that if they didn't happen, you have to wonder, would they have been able to find the end zone again?
That catch right there was a good one too. Pickens on the sidelines. And the other thing he did here, Miss, is he got Pickens involved in the game. There's the one to Freiermuth where he really got slaughtered on this play. Says a lot about him. But, you know, when you get Pickens involved, now the question is you got to get more for Claypool and Deontay Johnson, and they need to get better at what they're doing, because I think Claypool was no catches, only 2 targets, and Johnson only 4 targets. There's got to be more for guys like that.
Yeah, and I always go back to the, you know, was it a touchdown or not a touchdown for Deontay Johnson? That probably changes the game a lot too earlier in the first half as well. But I think maybe spreading the ball out more evenly. It feels like these first 4 weeks, it's been very Deontay heavy one game. This game we saw it being Pickens and Freiermuth heavy. They have the skills players utilize them, and also Najee Harris. There were no checkdowns on Sunday, something that we saw them working with a lot more in the first 3 games.
Mike Tomlin had more to say about Kenny Pickett when asked. Let's roll some of that videotape.
I think he provided a spark in game that is tangible, that we saw and could feel and appreciate. But I think it goes beyond that. I think that he's kind of provided that spark since we've been stepping in stadiums. It's just a component of who he is as a player and a quarterback, the things that he does, how he communicates, his competitive spirit. I think it's a positive catalyst for us.
Yeah, if you look at the stats, just hadn't seen the game and saw 3 interceptions, you might have thought, uh-oh, that's a guy in his first game. To me, I never come away thinking that. The Hail Mary, I discard that. The other 2, we can debate, because Chase Claypool's in a position where he has a 6-inch or 5-inch advantage over the cornerback. That's a play maybe he should come down with. And the other one, I will say, given where they were in field goal range, Missy.
And how much time was left, too.
You'd rather run time off the clock and be in a position to utilize Boswell, who already had a 51 and a 59-yarder. So that was maybe a guy, you know, getting a little too excited there, knowing he has to throw it up high, maybe not high enough, just throw it out of bounds.
And, you know, again, remember, he did not know he was going. He did not realize he was going into this game. It's something you find out, you know, at the moment. You take a few throws as you can, you get ready, and you go in. But I do agree, he knew immediately after the game he would not lay blame on any of his teammates. And even though Jalen Warren said, hey, maybe I could have done better on that, even Freiermuth said I should have caught that ball in that interception, Kenny was very adamant, those were my mistakes. What I did was not great in terms of helping the offense start to get going.
Yeah, the pitch to Warren was something that clearly didn't need to happen, because there was some real estate available there. And the way Warren was running, I thought that could have been a positive play. But, you know, again, he hadn't played at all. This was his first opportunity in a game they trailed, coming in, trying to rescue them. I think he did a pretty good job, and I think anyone who watched that game came away thinking this guy has the ability to do it. Now, can he do it consistently and right off the bat against teams like Buffalo, Tampa, on the road at Miami, on the road at Philadelphia?
Eagles, yeah.
That's a hard test right now, but who knows? This league is crazy.
Rip the Band-Aid off, you know.
Right.
We've seen crazy things every single weekend, so who's not to say that something crazy can't happen?
Sports is nuts that way. You never know about the storylines until they develop, and maybe Kenny Pickett's the reason they maybe go 2-2 in this stretch, or who knows what. We'll talk more about that. We'll also talk about Mitch Trubisky and how he took the news that he was no longer the starter. He will back up Kenny Pickett in Buffalo. We'll get into that and more as we continue right here on Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located on the North Shore. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be a part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the legendary shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
It is what it is, you know. Who they brought in Kenny, so we gonna roll with him. Like I said, we can just move forward and get better, get ready for next week. get Kenny ready for this week as well, for practice in the game this week. So that's all we can do.
Was there a noticeable spark from him when he came in the second half for you guys on offense?
Yeah, as soon as he came in, the crowd was like happy for him to get in and whatnot. So that made us get it going, and we was able to put points on the board.
Mitch's interception, was that tip before it got to your hands?
Yeah, so the player tipped the ball, and I wasn't able to get my hands on it, and they made a play on the ball, so it is what it is.
How can you describe how this one slipped away from you guys?
We gotta play better. Gotta hold on to the ball, just make those tough catches in those tough moments, and that's all we can do. Just continue to execute. We can just say what we can do, all this and that and the third each and every week, like about how we could have did this and that, but just talk too much. We just got to play, put it on display. That's all we can do.
Are you shocked about this one?
I mean, yeah, we had it in our hands. Like I said, let it slip away. Just gotta get ready for next week. There's nothing we can do about it. We can say what we could have did better and whatnot, but that's not gonna fix the situation of the win or the loss. So, like I said, we just gotta move forward.
You mentioned that the crowd kind of got behind you. What else did it do for your offense when Kenny came in? You guys seemed to be moving the ball well. You obviously get 2 scores.
It gave us a spark, what we needed, because we weren't moving the ball as well. I mean, we were moving the ball, but I feel like when he came in, we was just more efficient, and you could see it in the energy. He played with swag. You could see it, and that makes us want to play for him too. So.
Welcome back to Ford Truck Talk. Today we're looking at the new F-150.
The official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, did you see that lane change?
Another smooth play by the F-150 with great execution of that parallel park job.
Absolutely stunning.
Newcomers take note.
And now you too can win this Ford F-150.
Professional, show-stopping, built Ford tough. But we shouldn't expect anything else from the best-selling trucks in Pittsburgh.
When we make decisions, man, we don't anticipate blowing in the wind. That's not how we are. While at the same time we understand that what transpires after that decision-making often determines how we move forward. We're optimistic and thoughtful in our thought process. We believe in Kenny. We're getting him ready to play this week, and we're singularly focused on preparing for and ultimately playing a good game and winning up there in Buffalo, and really don't have a lot of thoughts beyond that.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin very confident in his decision to move forward. That leaves Mitch Trubisky as the backup, and he's been professional with everything that's happened. I'm sure he's disappointed. We saw that in the post game after the loss to the Jets. He was down, there's no doubt, but you got to believe he'll be stepping up and helping Kenny Pickett as much as he can. They seem to have a good relationship, and I think we've seen that from the beginning of training camp to now. They're competitive, yes, but they're teammates also.
And Trubisky knows the Buffalo Bills very well after spending last season with him. Coach Tomlin even went as far as saying, he did give it thought of starting Mitch because of that familiarity. But, I go back to the sideline on Sunday. Pickett came out. We knew he was starting. Mitch came out with a ball cap. He still warmed up with Kenny, did the normal things that they do on the sideline. He always had one of the Surface tablets. He was trying to help him as much as possible. He wasn't sitting there pouting. Yes, I think the emotions probably when the game ended, you take a shower, you have a chance to think about it. You could see the disappointment, but who wouldn't be when, you came here with a chance to be a starter again after what happened with him in the Bears. But Coach started the press conference by making it extremely clear that his performance, Mitch Trubisky's, was a component of the decision to make the switch. It was also the fact they could not get anything going on offense. So he doesn't want to lay it at his feet, to paraphrase what he was saying. So I think that's also important to know.
It's interesting. Last week, Mike Tomlin used the cower expression. There's a fine line in this business. I wonder if that touchdown to Deontay Johnson, which wasn't a touchdown because his foot was barely on the line, if that was a touchdown, we can sit here and talk about what might have happened, what did happen versus everything else, but that may have changed the complexion of the game in favor of Mitch Trubisky, because I would have tied it at 10-10 as opposed to settling for a field goal at that point.
Yeah, one of those coulda, woulda, shoulda things we can debate. I think most of Pittsburgh's probably happy with what transpired based on just the fan, environment that was created in that second half. Just when they saw that Kenny was warming up with a helmet on, it started to get very loud there. But Coach even, said Mitch Trubisky, who was voted a team captain by his teammates, will still remain one. He's going out for for the coin toss, doing the normal duties. So he's obviously somebody that in a very short time made an impression on his offensive teammates.
And judging by how Mike Tomlin was excited about this move, I got to believe that they're not going to be too conservative. At least they shouldn't against Buffalo. If you do that, I mean, you can know what's going to happen. They've got a good defense, and they have players everywhere on the field who can make plays. I would imagine that they're going to be aggressive with Kenny Pickett. That's his nature. That's how he wants to play the game. How much can you expect from a rookie, though, in that environment? It's not going to be a bunch of Kennys in Buffalo. It's going to be the opposite. So that'll be a component of this that'll be interesting to see.
Not that there isn't some tape on Kenny from that second half, but the Bills don't know a lot about him other than the preseason games he played in. You can go back to what he did at Pitt. So there is also that element of surprise as well. And like I said, with a full week of practice, it'll be interesting to see if the offense changes at all or how things evolve now that Kenny is the play caller.
As far as Mitch Trubisky is concerned, he's going to be the backup in this game. There was some speculation by some people that Mason Rudolph might be that guy, but he's going to be the backup as Kenny Pickett takes over the #1 duties. You know, when I hear Mike Tomlin say he's mature beyond his years, he's football smart, that means to me, translated, at least my interpretation of that, is that they're going to open up and let him do things, even if it includes audibles. Again, a raw rookie wouldn't expect that in his first NFL start, but he seems to have the ability to do these kinds of things.
Kenny said he told Matt Canada as soon as he received the news at halftime that he was going in, don't call the game any differently. I know everything. He said he spent a lot of time here at the Rooney Sports Complex, studying film, going over things, working with coaches, more of the mental aspect because he wasn't getting as much physical reps once the regular season started.
As far as Trubisky, well, Mike Tomlin said it was a professional conversation he had. If you missed it, this is what he said about number 10 being the backup.
Man, the way that you would expect, man, there's disappointment. He's a competitor. He's a professional. He's a hard and diligent worker. He wants to be a positive contributor to our efforts and the reason why we're successful, and to change that to afford him an opportunity to do those things. And so, it's something to absorb. We respect it.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky was in for the first 4 games, and you could tell at times I thought a little conservative with how he played, or at least that's how it appeared, and maybe that's one of the things that Mike Tomlin wanted to change. He didn't make a lot of mistakes, but he also didn't make enough big plays to keep his position.
Yeah, I think not being able to score the touchdowns, stalling out a lot of times. But again, the penalties, a lot of the an eligible guy downfield, there were so many things that happened, I feel like, to this offense that we'd see, popcorn, as coach would say, especially in Cleveland in that first half. And then you go to the second half and just the mistakes and maybe the miscommunication that was taking place. I think at this point, as we said, rip off the Band-Aid, see what Kenny can do. And if that can start to ignite this offense and score points on the board to help a defense that clearly needs help getting off of the field, they're just dealing with so many injuries right now.
It's going to be fascinating to see. You'll be there. If you're not there, you can watch it on KDKA, 1 o'clock on Sunday, followed by a couple of hours of postgame. So we'll have a full day of Kenny Pickett analysis as well as Steelers and the Bills coming up on Sunday. We'll take a break, come back with more. This is the Mike Tomlin press conference on Tuesday in Pittsburgh.
Game starts at 20, best slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
KG, what up? I got nothing for you, Fox.
Oh, come on.
Jalen.
You wanna tell? Yeah.
Don't call somebody on live TV.
Well, you answered. I have other friends anyway.
Marshawn, Barry.
Listen, I need some tips.
I like LA.
LA?
No, Dallas. That's not
Dallas.
Dallas not
Dallas?
the best. We gotta get to Miami. How about Detroit? Nah, Barry over there.
I'm gonna call y'all right back. Vanessa.
I got a tip for you. Always go with your gut.
I like that. Let's go with our gut.
They made the necessary plays. They won the third downs. We didn't win them. They were getting the ball to the guys that they wanted to get it to, and we didn't stop it. And when they get it to where they want to get it to, it's tough to win the series.
You got 2 fourth quarters now to start the season that defense has struggled to get off the field. What have you seen from this group?
We just got to make the plays, man. That's it. If you look at the series, it's a couple of third downs that we got to win. And then, just making the plays that we got to make. That's it.
How frustrating has this been?
It's very frustrating. I'm saying it's frustrating losing to people that you know that you're better than, more talented than. Especially when you have a team that we have. Like, we're a great team, a lot of talent, a lot of great young players.
I think we are way better than what we've been performing or putting on display.
How do you describe what it was like from your perspective when Kenny Pickett comes in the second half?
We just got to play defense. Whoever's out there on the other side, it don't matter to me. We just got to do our job.
How do you get back to playing the defense you guys want to play?
It's like I said, it's just winning the weighty downs, the necessary downs. We lost way too many third downs in the fourth quarter, in the third quarter. We gave up too many big plays, and we're playing very unlike ourselves. So just making those weighty plays, those third down stops, getting off the field, getting the ball to the offense, winning the turnover battle.
Mickey, were you guys slower in your communication when Terrell went out, or any guys, or was Zach Wilson making really good reads?
No, it was nothing to do with communication. They adapted to our game plan. They started throwing passes outside the numbers, away from the robber, which what I was playing. He gets paid too. He's an NFL quarterback. He's going to make great throws.
Could your favorite casino app be even better and faster than ever? You bet, because the all-new BetParks app has been built around what you really want. With easier sign-up, faster withdrawals, and all the slots and table games you love. Plus, make your first deposit and get a 100% bonus match up to $750. And 500 free spins. So, are all of your favorite games just a tap away? You bet. BetParks.
On the offensive side of the ball, you better deal with Josh Allen and his unique skill set. He's an elite passer. He's an elite runner or creator. It's challenging. It's simple mathematics,
When you talk about the Buffalo Bills run game, you have to talk about Josh Allen. He leads that. He also has weapons all over the place. His ability to be elusive is a component of his game that not many can stop, and that's the challenge the Steelers have, Missy. I don't know how you necessarily defend it. If you be aggressive with him, you can make plays, but if he gets away from you, then all of a sudden you're the victim of plays.
Yeah, after those comments, Coach Tomlin said, you better be able to utilize 5 rushers. And later he was asked more about containing him. He said, build a fence. It's really that challenging. And the game that he was watching getting ready for this one, of course, was the one that they came back from the large deficit to beat the Ravens. And the Steelers know how to deal with Lamar Jackson. And they faced Josh Allen and the Bills a number of times, it feels like, recently as well.
Yeah, like I said, when you have guys like Diggs and you have a guy like Isaiah McKenzie, he's one of those underrated guys that you see right here. He made a touchdown and a big one against the Ravens. And also Gabe Davis, they can come at you in a variety of ways. However, they have some problems in their secondary with injuries too. Real quick on that side of it, the Steelers can maybe exploit that down the field, but they have to deal with a front that can get after Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the Steelers dealing with some injuries of their own as well. But I think, in terms of the Steelers offense, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens now that Kenny will be there. And maybe it is something that creates a spark and lifts the spirits of everybody. And we see more things going right for the Steelers instead of the wrong way.
Yeah, you see right there some of the tight coverage they have, even without Micah Hyde, even without Tre'Davious White, but they have guys who step up. Damar Hamlin is one of them. Gabe Jackson, another local kid here. And they were very good at containing Lamar Jackson. So that's what the Steelers have to deal with. They're 14-point underdogs, one of the biggest margins we've seen, but maybe they like it there. The underdog, which has no chance, they internalize that and become somebody capable of winning. We saw it in Week 1 in Cincinnati. We saw it last year in Buffalo. Maybe they can do it again. We'll take a break, come back with more injury update when we return right here to the Mike Tomlin Show on Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms.
The fourth quarter drives, it's becoming, I guess, a bit of a trend for 2 of them there against you guys. How do you fix that?
Just getting off the field. Just finding ways, continue to find ways to try to get off the field.
How frustrating have all these ups and downs been? Because you guys played so well for a good portion of the game.
Definitely frustrating. Obviously, you want to come out on the other end of these games and keep moving in the right direction, whether it's, all the games are meaningful, most importantly, week in, week out, especially in the broad spectrum of the division. Just games certain situation scenarios. Like I said, we just got to find ways to come out on the other end of. And, all we can do is, tip our hats off to that team and, competing. Obviously, we competed at a high level today, but just didn't get it done. So just keep finding ways to keep coming together. This is not an individual, obviously, deal. This is not just a one guy type of thing or just one play defines a game. So just finding 60 minutes, nothing less than 60. So, that's obviously a start.
1-3 start. Is there confidence in this locker room? You guys can bounce back from
For
that?
sure. We got 13 games left, man. It's a lot of ball left. And that's not to say that, obviously, you never look over a game, you never look over the outcome of a game, but we got so much ball ahead of us. Just obviously come together at the right times. Obviously, the sooner the better. But again, just finding ways, being consistent, obviously how we approach the game, and just a detail in our work, making the plays that we got to make, and then obviously creating turnovers and creating the plays just to keep momentum of games. Just keep, like I said, keep us moving in the right direction.
Obviously, you're on the other side of the ball, but what does it do for you guys when Kenny Pickett comes in the second half? You hear the crowd behind you. It seemed like there was a noticeable spark.
Yeah, obviously it's amazing. Opportunity for him. A guy who's been consistently getting better each and every day. Controlling that room, controlling that offense. Obviously he's been waiting on this opportunity, and just coming in and just playing his style of ball.
This place is juiced up.
All right, welcome back. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews with you. Before we go, injury update. The biggest thing, the Bills have a lot of injuries. The Steelers do too. The one that's concerning against is Keller Witherspoon, who looks like he will not play again this week. Other injuries include?
Yeah, and they're all, unfortunately, on the defensive side of the ball. Terrell Edmonds, who left the game, is still in the concussion protocol. Minka Fitzpatrick dealing with a knee injury. Coach Tomlin said that will need to be managed throughout the week, so it sounds like he's going to get some practice time off. Cam Sutton's dealing with a groin and a hamstring injury, and then a double one for Cam Hayward as well, elbow and ankle. So that side of the ball needs to get healthy quick.
Yeah, only week 4 of the season, and all these injuries start to pile up. That's going to do it. For Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us. Tune in Saturday night, 11:35 for the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. And then all day Sunday, we got you covered on KDKA and Steeler digital platforms. Good day.